Namaskaram to all and welcome to this session of the Vande Guru Paramparam series. Today we are going to be having a very interesting discussion on the origin and evolution of two of the very popular deities in the Hindu pantheon. One is Lord Narasimha and one is Lord Bhairava. And to take us through these sessions, we have none other than Dr. Mrinalini Nevalkar. Mrinal, welcome to the session.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste. Dr. Mrinalini Nevalkar, she is a visiting faculty of Vedas, Vyakarana and Puranas at the University of Mumbai and various other institutes she is involved with in teaching these subjects. For her MPhil thesis, she interestingly had Narasimha through the Puranic sources as her topic. And for her PhD thesis, she had the Sacred and Folk Creams of Bhairava, a study into mythology, theology and ritual. So I'm sure there is no better person to take us through these topics other than Mrinal. She has been teaching and she's been in the research field for the last decade, for the last 10 years. She's received several awards and recognitions, the most important among them being the Zala Vedanta Award and the Justice K.T. Telang Junior Research Fellowship in Indology. She's also been involved with a lot of initiatives related to Indology with various organizations. She takes a lot of online workshops on subjects like classical and modern Sanskrit literature, Puranas, grammar, Vedic grammar, and many more. So I extend a hearty welcome to you, Mrinal, and I'm really happy that we have you for this session today. I'm sure it's going to be a very exciting session.
Thank you.
For the listeners. So firstly, let's start with Lord Narasimha, a very, very popular deity we have in Bharat, and a very interesting deity. So especially for children, when you start explaining them itself, it's a very attractive feature of the deity, where you see half lion, half man. So all these things attract them a lot. So in this session, maybe in the next few minutes, we will try to analyze and know from you a bit of the origin of this deity, how this deity actually got evolved, and the current form of the deity and the different rituals and traditions we have with respect to this deity. How and where do we see the sources of these coming from? And especially in Bharat, everything starts from the Vedas. So probably let me start by asking you, do we find any references to the origin of Narasimha in the Vedas?
Yes, we have both Simha and Vishnu in the Vedas, in Rigveda as well. Simha is often used as a comparison for the ferocious, fierce nature of deities like Maruts, for example. Vishnu also is a deity in Rigveda. We have very few suktas, and he is not really a prominent deity like we have Vishnu in the Puranas or in modern Hinduism, frankly. But yes, he is there in Vedas as Vishnu. There is one Vishnu Sukta, Rigveda 154, where there is one ruch, there is one line which is supposedly hinting at Narasimha. The line is like this: Mrugona Bhimaha Kucharo Girishtaha, which is like Vishnu is said to be roaming freely in wild mountains like a wild beast, like a wild lion. So, a ferocious lion. So that is what we have, but there is obviously no clarity to this because it can just mean as he is free wanderer, he can go anywhere, is probably also the meaning. We get in the Taittiriya Brahman of the Yajurveda, we get in Taittiriya Brahman Nrusimha Gayatri. Nrusimha Gayatri that we use today, that we use today in the worship as well. Om Vajranakhaya Vidmahe Tikshna Daunshtraya Dhimahi Narasimha Prachodayat. That is the Gayatri. We have as many as 3 Upanishads that are directly associated with Narasimha. There is one Upanishad, Nrsimha Shat Chakram, which is newer, as in modern, more recent. But the other two, Nrsimha Purva Tapani Upanishad and Nrsimha Uttara Tapani Upanishad. These two are surely pre-7th century because Shankaracharya has commented on them,
Right.
and Gaudapadacharya has commented on them. So they are older, they are more ancient, and they are very typical Upanishads. They talk about Narsimha as Brahma. So everything starts from Narsimha, everything culminates into Narsimha. So he is Brahma per
Right.
se. These two Upanishads also give the Nrsimha mantra as we use today, or which is also there in Puranas as well, which is Ugram Veeram Mahavishnu Jvalantam Vishwatomukham Nrsimham Bhishanam Bhadram Mrityu Mrityum Namamyaham. So this is the mantra they use, and they also explain a lot of details of the mantra, how to use it, what is the nyasa, mudra, everything. So there is a lot of discussion.
Right.
And I may say so, the Nrsimha myth, Nrsimha story as we know today, can be traced back to a Vedic story, not
Ah,
of Vishnu, but of Indra. So there is a story which is referred to in the Shatapatha Brahmana as well as Taittiriya Brahmana, where there is a battle, there is a fight between Indra and a demon called Namuchi.
hmm.
Namuchi of his enemies. And the story, it's somewhat like this. There are two versions again, and one in Shatapatha and one in Taittiriya. But what we know is Namuchi had a certain boon which was received from somebody anonymous or from Indra, that he will not be killed with a weapon that is either dry or wet or
Hmm.
during day or night. There are only two either or pacts, neither nor pacts. But
Ah,
this is the story. And what Indra did was what Narsimha later does, is finding a loophole between the two. So he kills Namuchi, Indra kills Namuchi at dusk using the Vajra made from the ocean foam, which is neither wet nor dry, and
hmm.
kills him at dusk, so which is neither day nor night. So this same idea of having a certain semantic boon and a deity finding or using the loopholes in that boon to kill that
Right.
person against the boon. So
Right.
this thought is very much there.
Okay.
So what we have about Narsimha in the Vedas.
This is very interesting, actually, that you have a story of Indra, which later on gets associated with Narasimha.
Yes.
This is quite an interesting topic. Now, actually, when you see the later development, I think
Hmm.
probably the story that most of us know today of Narasimha and Prahlada is from the Srimad Bhagavata Purana, mostly
Yes. Yes.
associated with the Srimad Bhagavata Purana.
Yes.
But, but I'm sure that we have had Ashtadasha Puranas and so many of them. Does this story reflect in the same way in all the Puranas, or do you find some kind of a development in the story also over the Puranas? And probably the culmination happened in the Bhagavata Purana.
Yes, yes, yes. Very much so, very much so. When I started studying Narasimha for MPhil, for the thesis, I knew only one story of Narasimha, like you said, the Bhagavad Puran story, which my granny had someday told me as a bedtime story.
Right.
That is all I knew about Narasimha while starting. So as I went through Puranas and several Upapuranas, I realized there is so much more to this story. You know, you can compare this with a kind of embroidery where you start with a single thread, and then you go on building layers and layers and layers of design around that same thing, and what you end up with is something very different from what you started with.
Right.
So same idea is there in Narasimha stories also, where you start with is a basic one-liner myth, one-liner story, which is in technical language called as a monomyth. So it is
Hmm.
a single mono one-liner story. That story is given in Agni Puran. The Agni Puran story is where you only have, it says, Hiranyakashipu was becoming a threat to the entire sacrificial institution. So he wanted to be the shareholder of sacrificial institution, and which was against the whole idea and Vishnu had to punish, and Vishnu then killed. Vishnu had to punish him. He killed Hiranyakashipu, assuming a man-lion form. That's all. There is no Prahlad, there is no Bhakti, there is no pillar, there is no entrails, there is nothing. It's a plain story.
Right.
There was a solution, and it happened. That's all. But then, when you come a little ahead, in Puranas like, for example, Brahmanda Purana, where you get the introduction of the boons, the neither nor boons, for the first time. But again, they aren't too many. You know, the Bhagavad Puran version that we commonly know has a long list. Ye bhi
Right.
nahi, ye nahi types. So, Brahmanda Puran only has the two neither nor pacts, very much the ones that were there in the Indra Namuchi story. So, neither a dry nor wet weapon, and neither during the day nor during the night. These are the only two options nor things that Brahmanda Puran notes. Also, there is again no Prahlad, no Bhakti element, nothing. So the problem, why does Hiranyakashipu needs to be killed? Why is there a need? Is because there is a problem in the sacrificial institution that he is trying to create. That's all.
Right.
Then we also have Puranas like Brahma Puran or an Upa Puran called Vishnu Dharmottar Puran, which states these ideas, neither nor ideas, and it adds some more. And for the very first time, Vishnu Dharmottar Puran tells us the reason as to why is he creating a problem or why is he against Vishnu. And it states that he is seeking revenge for Vishnu having killed his brother Hiranyaksha.
Right.
So this is where it all begins. So the problem has started from Vishnu's side. He killed Hiranyaksha, so Hiranyakashipu now needs to seek revenge. So at least there is some reasoning now. So there is one more point added. There are Puranas like Kurma Puran, for example, or Saura Puran, which is another minor Puran, or even one version in the Shiva Puran. In Shiva Puran, we have Narasimha myths at two places. One is in Rudra Samhita, the first one, where we have Prahlad for the first time, but he is not a devotee. Forget about being a born devotee. He is not a devotee. So when Narasimha actually comes to fight or kill Hiranyakashipu, Prahlad is the one who goes and wages a war against Narasimha. So he
Okay.
is fighting against Narasimha. He and his other brothers, Lada, Anulada, vagare, they are fighting with Narasimha because he is becoming a threat to the Asura Empire.
Right.
So that is how you get introduced to Prahlad in the Puranas for the first time. Also, there is a story, additional story in the Saura Puran where Prahlad, after the entire thing is done, Hiranyakashipu is killed, Prahlad becomes the king. After all this while, Prahlad somehow forgets about the greatness, the divinity of Narsimha or Vishnu. He forgets Vishnu, is what Saura Puran says. Because of some curse, he forgets Vishnu and decides to fight Vishnu, seek revenge for Vishnu killing his father and uncle both. Then he tries to go and fight with him, but suddenly, because of his past karma, past positive karma, he realizes the divinity of Vishnu and he stops the war. He doesn't go fight with him any further. So, the Prahlad, the entry of Prahlad in the Narasimha myth is not as a devotee. So, he starts as the enemy of Narasimha, very much understandably so. He
Right.
has his uncle and is trying to kill his father. But then again, there is a little improvement in Prahlad in Puranas like Matsya Puran. Also, there is one version in Padma Puran, Srushti Khanda. Padma Puran also has two versions of the story. So, the first version in the Srushti Khanda highlights the idea of supernaturalness for the first time. So, Narsimha has attacked the empire or is attacking the Asuras. Prahlad, for the first time, feels that there is something divine about this being. He's using weapons like Pashupatastra, he's using divine weapons. So he is somebody divine,
Right.
is what he realizes. But again, there is no devotion per se. Or in one story, he is shown to actually have Vishwarupa Darshana within Narsimha's body. So very much what we have in Bhagavad Gita, everything is going in the body, everything is revolving within the body. There are all worlds, all animals, all beings, everything within the
Right.
body of Simha. So he tries to warn his dad, his father, that this is something unusual. This is a threat for the
Hmm.
asura. This is not something normal.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
we need to give up this fight. It will otherwise end up in our destruction.
Right.
So how the Puran depicts him. So
Right.
though there is divinity, there is some supernatural element, there is still is no devotion.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
we have versions like what you said very correctly, Bhagavat Puran version, Skanda Puran version, or
Hmm.
Narsimha Puran version, or Vishnu Puran version, and the second version in the Padma Puran, which is found in the Uttarakhanda,
Hmm.
where we have all these elements. If I can summarize these threads, is like first is the age of Prahlad keeps dropping. Okay,
Hmm.
in several Puranas where we have Prahlad, his son, his grandson, so Bali and Virochan are
Ah.
also sitting next to Prahlad in the royal assembly of Hiranyakashipu.
Oh, okay.
Sons and grandsons, he is obviously not a young lad like we know in Bhagavad Puran. You
Right.
know,
Correct.
Narsimha Puran says he's 8-year-old.
Right.
Bhagavad talks it further 5-year-old,
Yes.
inducing
Yes.
inducing that extremity of devotion. A mere
Correct.
5-year-old is so devoted to Vishnu. It's such a great devotee. He doesn't leave Vishnu's side or Vishnu's name in spite of having so many hardships. The
Correct.
hardship is also an added idea because
Ah.
earlier editions, earlier versions of the myth don't have any problem like this. So there is obviously Hiranyakashipu opposing Prahlad's Vishnu Bhakti, but there aren't things like throwing him off the cliff or putting him into fire or putting him into boiling oil or just
Right.
setting him on fire or
Correct.
trample him below an elephant, nothing like that.
Ah.
But these Bhagavad Puran style stories, we have this idea of Prahlad being tortured.
Right.
Also, the idea, the backstory of Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha is added here.
Correct.
So it goes back and it says that they were actually attendants of Vishnu, the doorkeepers of Vishnu, and they insulted Sanat Kumar, so Sanat Kumar's
Correct.
cursed them, and if they were to be Vishnu worshippers, devotees of Vishnu, they were to come back in 7 lives. If they were the opponents, they would come back in 3 lives. So they choose the lesser time. Also, uh, the fantastic appearance of Narsimha through a pillar,
Hmm.
very awe-inducing, something divine, something thrilling, supernatural, is also added here, which was never there earlier. So he just comes and wages a war, like a
Right.
normal happens usi tarah se. But here we have this fantastic appearance of Narsimha. ये हो गई Vaishnava versions.
Hmm.
Doesn't end here. Puranas have more to offer. We we have several Shaiva versions in two
Ah.
of the Puranas. One in Linga Puran and
Ah.
another Shiva Puran, which is a later text, matlab, later addition to Shiva Puran, is where Narsimha story goes in the way it has gone so far. So there is Hiranyakashipu, there is austerities, there is boons, there is Prahlad. Hiranyakashipu is killed by Narasimha,
Hmm.
and Vaishnava versions say the story ends here.
Hmm.
After completing his activities assigned as an incarnation, Narasimha goes back to his own abode, or
Right.
like Narasimha Purana says, he goes and settles down on Sri Shaila mountain.
Right.
Shailam. So it ends there. But Shiva Puran says and Linga Puran says he had become uncontrollable, untamable beast. Now that he had tasted blood, he became just wild. And he started creating havoc everywhere. He started killing everybody He started causing trouble to everybody, humans and gods alike. So he had to be controlled somehow. So gods approached Shiva that you are the only one left who can do something about this beast now. That is when Shiva assumed Sharabheshwara form. One version says Shiva first sent Veerabhadra to verbally pacify Narasimha and some put some sense into his mind that whatever he is doing is not supposed to do that. Supposed to calm down and go back to his place. But Narasimha ends up insulting Veerabhadra. He has a fight with Veerabhadra, and Veerabhadra ultimately has to go back to Shiva and tell that he is beyond me, he is not listening. And that is when Shiva assumes Sharabha form. Now, there are two stories after the Sharabha form. One is where they say Sharabha killed Narasimha. He took out his hide, his skin, and he started wearing that skin. Okay, so which is why Shiva is now said to be Simha Charma. He has Simha Charma on his body, hide of the lion. But the other story, which I find more interesting, is from the Linga Puran, where it says Sharabha overpowered Narasimha, and the two just amalgamated with each other. Just like if you pour water into water, it just fuses. You can't make the two away. Or the line from Linga Puran says, Yatha jale jalam kshiptam, kshiram kshire, grutam grute. When you mix the same thing, you can't separate it again. So they
Beautiful.
just fused together. बट यहाँ पे भी खत्म नहीं हुआ. देर इज मोर. व्हाट इज मोर? Vaishnava Purana says Sharabheshwara was not the end of the story. When Sharabha started overpowering Narasimha, Narasimha assumed the form of Gandabherunda. Gandabherunda is a twin-headed bird beast. So you had animal human form, you had animal form, and now you have bird human bird animal form, which is Gandabherunda. And Gandabherunda then overpowered Sarabheshwara. So the story retains its Vaishnava flavor.
Right.
But obviously we can't stop there. Shaiva Puranas again say, no, this is not how it happened. Shiva had to intervene again on this Gandabherunda as well. So
Yeah.
Sharabha assumed Bhairava form, and Bhairava created a consort deity for Narasimha, that is Pratyangira Narasimhi. We have a temple south of Pratyangira. And this Pratyangira Narasimhi then pacified Narasimha, and that is how the whole problem stopped. There is another version to this Devi story also, Devi flavor also, where it says it was not Sharabha or Bhairava who realized the need or the idea of having a Pratyangira Narasimhi. It was all the divine goddesses together who realized if not Bhairava, if Narasimha and Sharabha, if they continue fighting, it will be the end of the world. So they created Pratyangira Narasimhi, and she ultimately pacified her husband.
Yeah, and as you are mentioning this development, right, and this I've observed when you visit the temples in the south and all, right, you have temples for Sharabheshwara. You have the idol of Sharabheshwara temples. Those temples are there, Shiva temples. As you rightly said, Pratyangira Devi temples are there in few aspects in South India, and of course you have
Yes.
Narasimha temple for sure. So it is interesting to see that in the Puranas, though it developed, in terms of trying to establish the Vaishnava supremacy or the Shaiva supremacy or the Shakta supremacy, they also flowed into the society as well. It
Yes.
just didn't remain in the Puranas. They influenced the worship, the rituals, the tradition of the people also. and it is heavily taken up from there. It's actually very interesting to see this whole development. And probably, I think also, Mrinal, the point that you mentioned about Bhagavatam, it's a very interesting twist that Bhagavatam takes to all its predecessors, all the versions of his predecessors, starting right from the one-line story you mentioned in the beginning.
Yes.
Starting from there, or probably even that one-line story being related to the Vedas, we speak about in very brief. They just hint at these incidents, where probably the entire the movement of bhakti was very high until the Srimad
Yes.
Bhagavatam period.
Yes.
And Bhagavatam has contributed hugely to the bhakti movement, especially
Bhakti
in the
tradition.
Vaishnava
Yes.
Sampradaya.
Very much. Very much.
Right, so that is why it was very interesting when you said that right from even the birth of Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu is also linked to bhakti, starting
Yes.
right from the Jaya
Or
Vijaya.
the origin of Prahlad is also linked to bhakti.
Yes,
It starts with that. Is
correct,
the idea.
absolutely.
Right? Yes.
So it's very beautiful to see this entire development of the Narasimha story in the Puranas, also linked to the bhakti movement and other things that were happening in our country, in Bharat,
Yes.
in parallel. As these kept developing. Very, very interesting. Extremely
Very true.
interesting.
Very
Yeah.
true.